Good morning. So good to see you all again. I'm going to jump right into the talk this morning. Infamy or praise. Don't pay any attention to the title. It may kind of have something to do with the talk, but we'll figure that out. But in the last month, at least three celebrities younger than me have passed away, and I noticed that because I'm not getting any younger myself, and this gave rise to the thought that the time remaining for me to become rich and famous is rapidly slipping away. I further realized that becoming rich and famous didn't buy any one of them an extra second to enjoy being rich and famous. And thinking back on all the plans my classmates and I had when leaving high school, I realized too that those plans have either amounted to nothing or locked us into limited fields of experience. Now, I'm not knocking any of those who followed their grand scheme or family's dream, studied and became successful in one profession or another. I'm just noting that by locking into some predetermined path automatically sets limits on our evolutionary journeys. After all, a medical doctor may accomplish wonderful things in their career and be a positive contribution to countless lives, but everything they experience will be defined by their first being a medical doctor and occur within the guardrails of what society expects of a medical doctor. Their career success is determined by how well they play within those guardrails. Are they affiliated with the best hospitals? Do they belong to the right country club? Are they rich? Is their golf game good enough to be competitive but not better than their department head? Well, spirit has neither plans nor limits. No concept of rich or poor, and isn't impressed by infamy, praise, or the ability to drive a little round ball to the green from the tee. As humans, we can best count on a few decades of existence. Spirit has been around forever and will be around long after we, in all our evolutions, have passed from memory. Maybe spirit has something beneficial to share with us. Considering we existed in spirit before we were born and will return there when we leave, we're going to spend a lot more time in the realm of spirit than we ever will in these ugly bags of mostly water we currently occupy. Raising a question to upset your traditional religious friends at the Thanksgiving table. How can our experiences in this life determine our afterlife? Since we already lived in God's house before we got here. Are you really telling me that after an eternity of spiritual bliss, a few fleeting orbits around an inconspicuous star in a rather inconspicuous galaxy in an ever-expanding universe determines how the rest of our eternity unfolds? Mark me doubtful. I'm guessing our traditionalist dinner guest's first argument will be that, well, we did not exist before this life. So, in effect, they're telling us that the Almighty God of traditional teachings has limits? That there was a time when their God did not exist? Well, from where then did this God emerge? Traditional teachings create more questions than our time in situ can ever allow us to fathom. Traditional teachings explain it all with one simple declarative. Have faith. If we have faith, they say, we do not need to understand, and if we don't have faith, we are incapable of understanding. The ultimate paradox. Well, that just stops the whole conversation, doesn't it? Stop asking questions and we will never be left short of answers. Use the crayons given to us, follow the numbers so everyone's picture comes out the same. Just accept the edicts handed down through the epochs of history by our betters, who no doubt have only our best interest at heart, and everything will be hunky-dory for the 1%. And this is why Science of Mind appeals to people who color outside the lines. You see, when we understand that Spirit or God is infinite, we know that we therefore can only be individual expressions within Spirit. As expressions of Spirit, we are as a drop of water to the ocean, at once one and always part of the whole. As an infinite, Spirit exists without beginning or end. Therefore, our little drop has always been flowing through the infinite whole. Our birth into this form is nothing more than a confluence of chaotic thoughts brought to fruition in this physical body and empowered by freedom of choice to generate more chaos. Understanding these things, we have eliminated all those unanswerable questions, those have faith questions whose presence merely guarantees the survival of a hierarchy tasked to give the appearance of knowledge where none can be found. But then how are the evil to be punished, asked our intrepid traditionalist while pouring gravy over his turkey and mashed potatoes. They are still confused, you see, having not absorbed the paradigm shift our teaching offers. They're still stuck in that we are born, we live, then we go on to eternity mindset. That God is not infinite world where the Almighty is shrouded by smoke and mirrors, has moods, rivals, and a serious inferiority complex that must be constantly placated by rituals and platitudes. The traditional God is like that guy on the interstate zigzagging through rush hour traffic, constantly afraid the other lane is going to go faster than the one he's in. Everyone is his enemy and must be defeated. He arrives exhausted and out of sorts, and the day is just beginning. Science of Mind teaches us Spirit has no rivals. There's no duality. It's that infinite thing again. Spirit exists to create and experience infinite evolutions. Its default setting is yes. Its very purpose is to grow, expand, evolve, and a frequently overlooked truth. To have fun doing it. And it's never too late to have fun. Ernest Holmes tells us in the Science of Mind textbook, the principles of Spirit are beauty, love, creativity, joy, and health. All the chaos we generate with our freedom of choice is acted upon by Spirit using those delightful principles. There's no mention of evil. And again, that infinite thing, if Spirit is delightful in its giving, there's no room for anything else. Spirit does not need to punish evil because evil does not exist in Spirit. Not one of the principles, not overlooked, not forgotten, was never part of the job description. Evil is a figment of our imagination, and that is the only place it is real. In spirit, there are no limits. There is enough for everyone and more. So relax. Enjoy the ride down the interstate. Take in the sights. Enjoy a podcast. As we say in Florida, arrive alive. And I'll add spiritually as well as physically. See, Spirit has gifted us this life to participate in its evolution. It's not there to be worshipped. It's not there to punish us. It's not there to rigidly dictate how our lives are lived. It's there to accept input from us so that it can continue to evolve. Our choices, our generation of chaos, provide opportunities to create the unexpected, mutations, and new evolutions. We break out of predefined guardrails. We consciously shut down the GPS and set out across country just to see where we wind up. But surely not all our choices are good. Not every idea is a winner. God must judge our choices for our own protection, states the traditionalist before downing a mouthful of that broccoli walnut salad with the little mandarin oranges that Aunt Celia always brings. You see, old habits are hard to break. Where in the list of principles did judgment occur? Spirit don't do judgment. And that is why it is so important for us to understand how the universe works. Spirit says yes to whatever we feed it. No judgment. Ever hear the saying, be careful what you wish for? This is why. We must put our energy into desires that align with the spiritual principles so we can enjoy our experience here in these ugly bags of mostly water. When we see everyone else as the enemy, Spirit obliges. Traffic slows to a crawl. Comedian Alan King expressed it perfectly when asking, how can they call it traffic when it doesn't move? So when we flip our perspective and set out determined to enjoy the ride, our destination appears much too soon. Our traditionalist diner slices into the jelly cranberry sauce and asks, but how does science of mind worship Jesus? Don't you accept him as your Lord and Savior? Resist the temptation to bump the bowl of Granny Nana's ambrosia on their head. Remember, this is all new to them. Science of mind allows that this teaching is not new. Ernest Holmes did not receive a proclamation from on high. No stone tablets were FedExed to his home. He simply wrote down and shared in his own words what others have been saying for thousands of years. The teacher Jesus did the same thing using the tools of his time. He did not write because his students were mostly illiterate. He may have been too, for all we know. After all, even God can only write using the hands of humans. But Jesus understood how the universe works and was compelled to share. He couched his lessons in stories that people could relate to, fishermen, farmers, tradesmen, showing them how the universe works through demonstrations. Jesus taught that he was an expression of spirit, a son of God. He is reported to have said, believe in me, believe as I believe, and you too will perform miracles. I'm paraphrasing, but that's roughly what he said. Meaning simply that believing in our own power to direct spirit, of which we are all seamlessly united, as He is, we too can enjoy the spiritual principles in this life, do things we did not think possible. And let's take the opportunity to clear up a couple of other common misconceptions. Jesus is not dead at the end of this story, and the only sin is the mistaken beliefs his community held to, thinking he was a threat to their way of life rather than recognizing his teachings as a common consciousness course correction. Before the Common Era, Socrates also taught the same principles, and it didn't end well for him either. Now, before I wrap up, I want to acknowledge the tragic loss of life in the Maui wildfires, and more importantly, the spirit of the men and women who devote themselves to jumping in front of those flames to protect people they don't know. And to the spirit of the people who have lost so much, knowing that they are delayed, but not defeated. Even in the face of tragedy, coloring outside the lines opens our horizons, allowing us to realize experiences Spirit had stored away in some dusty attic waiting to be enjoyed. The doctor who says, yeah, I got all that, but my heart yearns to help people who don't have a hospital to go to. And then sets out and finds a way to make it possible for people to have a hospital to go to. The attorney who chooses to serve the unseen people in our communities for whom the law is only an encumbrance on their freedom, and helps by doing so to turn the tide of despair one by one until all the boats in the harbor rise to their potential. Any person who chooses to see the other as a brother and not a bother. Anyone who consciously trains themselves to understand how the universe works, then uses their empowerment to influence the common consciousness toward spiritual completeness. Our traditionalist tablemate may be slow to catch on, may stubbornly stick to believing in the infamy that brought us here, but by keeping them at the table, we may all still get to praise some pumpkin pie smothered in whipped cream. So thank you for your attention this morning. Thank you.